Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be trying out a few recipes from some of my favorite vegan cookbooks and fellow vegan bloggers. I don't have a lot of time to do recipe development of my own right now because we're moving very soon, so I thought this would be fun instead. I only have a few requirements. One, they have to be vegan, obviously. Two, I have to have all the ingredients at home because I don't feel like going to the store. And three, Max has to approve of them in advance because he's the picky one in this relationship, even if he tries to convince you otherwise. We're gonna go through some of these cookbooks and then I'll check in with you when we decide what to make. All right, so for breakfast slash brunch, it's brunch time now, we've decided to make sweet potato pancakes from none other than Sweet Potato Soul. I'm sure you guys are familiar with her, but if you're not, she makes incredible vegan recipes, and I love her cookbook. It is wonderful, so be sure to check out her YouTube channel and her cookbook. They're both linked in the description box below. We've got all the ingredients. I even have baked sweet potatoes in my fridge from a few days ago, so I'm hoping this will be pretty quick and easy. So let's get to it. If anyone has a recommendation for an actual cookbook stand that's not a cake stand, let me know in the comments below. The first thing we're gonna do is stir the flaxseed meal with the water. So we're gonna make like a little bit of a flax egg. So I've got some ground flaxseed meal, not flaxmead, though that would be a shorter way to say it, flaxmead. And we're gonna add some water, 1/4 cup of water. Give this a little stir and we're gonna set it aside to thicken. In this other bowl, I'm gonna mix the spelt flour with some other flour because I don't have enough spelt flour, sugar, cinnamon, baking powder, baking soda, salt, and nutmeg. Okay, where's everything?
Can I just say, with the framing in the book, it kind of looks like Jenné's rolling her eyes at you.
What? What does it look like now?
Still looks that way.
Oh, okay. What about now? Well, no, she's looking this way now. It's not at me.
It's like a Mona Lisa thing. It's
I don't appreciate your sense of humor right now. I might actually have enough spelt flour, so I guess we could just do all spelt flour and keep these pancakes on the healthy side. But we'll probably add extra vegan butter and maple syrup so that they're not too healthy, because Max doesn't like when I make recipes that are too healthy. So it says 1/3 cup of unpacked light brown sugar. 2 teaspoons ground cinnamon. Ooh, I like that she uses a lot of cinnamon. Cinnamon and sweet potato are so good together. And this cinnamon is the most delicious cinnamon I've tried. It's from the spice brand Burl Up & Barrel, which I love. Highly recommend their spices. They're all single origin spices. They're ethically sourced, sustainably farmed. So I really recommend them. And I love fresh nutmeg. I really like that she uses it in this recipe because it really does make a difference. Oh, it smells so good. So we need 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So the sweet potato goes in this bowl with the flaxseed meal with the other wet ingredients, so I'm just gonna add that now so I have a little bit of space here. We also need 1.5 cups of milk and 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 1 teaspoon of vinegar. And finally, we're gonna add the melted coconut oil or vegan butter. We're gonna do coconut oil today and then cook the pancakes in vegan butter. Let's give it a whisk. It's just time to combine the wet and the dry ingredients. And it says, do not overmix. Always an important tip when you're making pancakes or baked goods. Overmixing can cause your batter to get too tough. Oh. I just spilled on myself. You can hear it kind of bubbling up, and that's the leavening agents reacting, which means they're gonna be nice and fluffy. To make the pancakes, heat up 1 tablespoon or 2 of vegan butter over medium heat, then reduce the heat to medium low and ladle in some of the pancake batter. I used about 1/3 cup of batter, but if you want bigger pancakes, you could use up to 1/2 cup of batter. Once the pancakes start to bubble in the middle, about 3 minutes or so, carefully flip them and cook for a few more minutes until they're cooked through. To keep the pancakes warm while you're making all of them, you can transfer them to an oven-safe plate and leave them in the oven at the lowest temperature. After making this first batch of pancakes, I reread Jenné's head note in the cookbook and saw that she recommends a cast iron skillet. So I made the remaining batter in a cast iron skillet. I think I have a slight preference for the cast iron, but both versions worked great. The sweet potato pancakes are done. They smell so good. I have a little bit of leftover batter for later, but we're gonna start with 4 large pancakes for now. I'm gonna add a little bit of vegan butter on top because Max requested this, and a little bit of maple syrup. The batter is a little bit sweet from the brown sugar, so I feel like we don't need too much maple syrup. Yum! Oh my god, they're so good. These are the best sweet potato pancakes I've ever had. Some of the best pancakes I've had, period. This is the Sweet Potato Soul Cookbook from Jenné. Find her on YouTube and Instagram. I love that she includes anecdotes and history notes about the evolution of Southern cuisine, soul food, and how Black Americans have created it over generations. I've learned a lot from just reading the head notes and the introduction, and of course the recipes are very delicious. So I hope you guys check it out. This next recipe I'm gonna try making is a spinach artichoke dip from the cookbook, The Vegan 8. This is from my friend Brandi. She goes by The Vegan 8 on her blog as well as her Instagram. I'm gonna grab the ingredients and then we'll get started. So these are the 8 main ingredients. Doesn't include salt and pepper, but the first thing I wanna do is peel this potato. The recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of a Yukon Gold potato, peeled and cooked. So I'm gonna peel this and then I'm gonna pop it in the Instant Pot for maybe, I would say 10 to 12 minutes for this, and I'll get started on the other stuff in the meantime. All right, so the recipe calls for 10 ounces of fresh spinach chopped, which is a lot of spinach, so it's very healthy. I feel like this is gonna take me a really long time to chop, so I'm gonna instead use my food processor. I'm adding the spinach in batches to the food processor, pulsing a few times until the spinach is in smaller pieces, and then repeating until it's all used up. And now we have a ton of chopped spinach. All right, our spinach is chopped, so now I'm going to work on the onion and garlic. A 1/2 cup of a finely diced onion and 3 minced garlic cloves. Roughly chop the artichokes into quarters. Quartered artichoke hearts. Oh, that's nice. I'm gonna go ahead and drain them. And she says they release a lot of liquid, so drain the excess. I'm gonna make sure these are drained really well. I might wrap them in a paper towel just to get any of the excess liquid out because I don't want the dip to be watery. Spinach artichoke dip is traditionally made with cream cheese. This version doesn't have that. It's actually called Fulham cream cheese spinach artichoke dip because apparently it fools everyone into thinking that it does. So for the cream cheese dip, the recipe calls for plain unsweetened dairy-free yogurt. Brandi recommends the So Delicious unsweetened coconut yogurt, which I love, but says do not use a low-fat yogurt. So we've got 1 cup of plain unsweetened vegan yogurt here. And then we also need 1/2 cup of raw cashews. Again, I'm just going to weigh them on my scale since it's already here. So we need 75 grams. And the other ingredients we need are white vinegar, a 1.5 tablespoons of this. We also need a 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt and some black pepper. Oh wait, I forgot, I have to add the potato as well. So let me go make sure that's done in the Instant Pot. I took the potato out and I just kind of roughly chopped it up into these small chunks. So now we're just gonna blend everything all together. All right, this looks really smooth and nice and creamy. It's very thick. I think you need to see just how thick it is. Look at this. Ooh, this is so good. This could be a dip on its own. Most of Brandi's recipes, including this one, are oil-free, so we're going to simmer the onions and garlic in a little bit of water instead of oil. So once the water is simmering in the saucepan, add the garlic and the onions and cook for about 5 to 8 minutes or until they're tender. Then add the chopped spinach in small batches, stirring until each batch is well coated and wilted before adding another batch. Repeat the process until you've used all the spinach. It should take about 10 minutes, though I think mine took a little bit less time because I used baby spinach and I chopped it in the food processor. I just put the canned artichokes in the spinach filling, just folding that in to combine. Then I'll pour it into the baking pan and we'll pour the cream sauce on top and then I'll put it in the oven. Everything has been combined and it looks amazing. I'm just gonna put it in a 9-inch pie plate. You could also use a cast iron skillet or a baking pan. and I had a bit of a taste test earlier. It's really good. So I'm sure it's gonna be even better once it goes in the oven. And we're gonna bake it at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for how many minutes? 25 minutes. So I'll check in with you guys when it's time to take it out of the oven. Let's try this. It's unbelievably creamy. You would never know that this is like actually very healthy. This is so yummy. It's creamy. It's got that nice tang that reminds you of cream cheese. And best of all, you're eating so much spinach, so this is actually really good for you. If you want to get Brandi's cookbook, you can find that in the description box below. She has tons of great recipes on her website as well. We're gonna finish this, have a glass of wine, and then I'll check in when it's time for dinner. For dinner, Max made a special request. He really wants me to make a recipe from my friend Joanne. She goes by The Korean Vegan on Instagram and her blog. She specializes in vegan Korean food, as you might have guessed from her handle. And she's one of the most talented chefs I've met. I've had her food many times. She throws these epic dinner parties where she cooks all day long, and she makes the most delicious Korean food, but also some non-Korean food. But today I thought I would try one of her Korean recipes, and I decided to make this spicy and crunchy garlic tofu. And in Korean, it's called KKAMPOONG tofu. I don't think I pronounced it perfectly, but that's what it's called. And you can check Joanne out on Instagram at The Korean Vegan. She makes amazing recipes. I'm gonna get started on this tofu now. All right, these are all the ingredients we need. I've got my extra firm tofu pressing under these cookbooks right here. This is the gochugaru. This is Korean chili flakes. I got it in my Thrive Market order a few weeks ago. So while the tofu is being pressed, I'm going to prep the vegetables, slice the scallions, the onions, jalapenos, garlic, and then make the sauce. For the vegetables, we need 7 garlic cloves. I've got 7, yes. I love a recipe that uses a lot of garlic. Half a red onion, which I already had half in my fridge. 2 jalapeno peppers or 2 green Korean chili peppers, and 2 whole scallions. And now we're going to dice 1/4 of a red onion, so half of this. Oh, why did I do that? That's not how you dice an onion, Nisha. I know that because I've showed you how to dice an onion in many of my videos. Give the onion a final dice. Oh, it's making me cry. Ugh. These peppers are quite big boys. As you guys know, I like to call big things. So I'm probably not going to use all of these peppers. We'll kind of play it by ear. For the scallions, I'm going to slice the dark green tops at an angle and use those for the garnish, and slice the white and green parts into rounds and cook those with the rest of the aromatics. I've got extra firm tofu here, and I really made sure I pressed out as much water as I can because that's what the instructions say. Now I'm going to toss these tofu cubes into a bowl with potato starch. Joanne says the potato starch is going to help it get a lot crispier than if you were to use cornstarch, so I'm excited to see how this goes. Come on, get out. Oh, okay. I'm using my hands because I want to be gentle, and I don't want to crush the tofu. All right, now we're going to make the sauce. We've got our gochugaru. Ooh, it's very, it's a little bit fruity but smoky at the same time. It's not very spicy. So we need a full tablespoon of this. In addition to the gochugaru, we need 1½ tablespoons of soy sauce or tamari, 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar, but I am using rice vinegar, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and 1/2 tablespoon mirin that Joanne says it's optional, and finally 1 teaspoon of potato starch. You're gonna whisk until the starch is dissolved. Now it's time to get started on the cooking. I'm gonna start by cooking the tofu. I need to heat up some vegetable oil in a large skillet. I'm just using grapeseed oil today because we're using very high heat. So we had a bit of a mishap. I spilled oil all over myself and the floor. So I'm gonna go change and then we'll make the tofu. All right, I'm back. I am not covered in oil anymore. I am very clumsy, as you guys know from, I'm very clumsy. Now I'm gonna start cooking and hopefully I won't spill anything. To cook the tofu, add 4 tablespoons of the oil to a large skillet over high heat, and once it's very hot, add the coated tofu chunks in a single layer. Don't overcrowd the tofu because the potato starch makes the tofu sticky and the pieces will stick to one another if they get too close. You'll need to flip the tofu pieces one by one, and I found it was easier to do this with a chopstick rather than with a spatula or tongs. Cook until the tofu is browned on all sides, about 7 minutes, and then transfer the tofu to a wire rack to drain off the excess oil. Then you'll repeat the process with the remaining tofu. When the tofu is done cooking, add a little bit more oil to the hot skillet and add the aromatics, the sliced scallions, jalapenos, garlic, red onions, and some dried red chili peppers. Saute until the garlic starts to brown, then pour in the sauce we made earlier with the gochugaru and soy sauce. It'll turn everything a beautiful red color, and you'll stir the sauce with a wooden spoon until it reduces down into a thick sauce. It'll be pretty quick because of the potato starch, about 30 seconds. Once the sauce has thickened, add the fried tofu back to the pan and toss the tofu to coat in the sauce. This is the best looking tofu I've ever made, so I'm really excited about it. It smells even better, and I'm just gonna finish it with a half tablespoon of toasted sesame oil, which is one of my favorite ingredients, and some toasted sesame seeds. I'm really excited because this is my first Korean dish. I think I've been intimidated by Korean food in the past just because it's not something I've tried, but this was actually really, really simple. So I highly encourage you to check out the recipe. You can find Joanne at Instagram at The Korean Vegan. Her blog is thekoreanvegan.com, and she's gonna have an amazing cookbook come out next year that she's just finishing right now. So I'm sure you guys will love her. And now it's time for us to taste test. This is like restaurant quality food. We have a really good Korean restaurant in our neighborhood. This is just as good, if not better than anything there. Be sure to check out Joanne's recipe on her blog as well as her Instagram. I'm gonna have a few more bites of this, actually all the bites, I'm gonna have all the bites, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Or less, so very useful. And we'll get started. I don't have a lot of time. I'm gonna start by heating, so the sweet potato and the liquid ingredients go in this bowl with the flaxseed. It's time for dinner.